welcome to C3 Films. My name is Cheryl, and this is.
Chris.
And today we're doing another episode of It Wasn't That Good. And we're going to be talking about The Witcher Season 3. So if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and do so, or don't, really doesn't matter. And then come back and watch us talk about it. So I know there's been a lot of talk about Henry Cavill's exit on The Witcher
Mm-hmm.
because of how far off they're going from the original Witcher content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought, if he's leaving the show because he disagrees, then, and I know he's like a big Witcher fan, which is why he
Yes,
wanted
he
to be
is.
Geralt in the first place. So I kind of thought that it would be bad, especially since season 2 was kind of starting to head that direction.
Yeah,
I personally haven't read the books or played the game,
me neither.
so my opinion is just solely based on a
For
viewer,
sure.
yeah, of not having any background on it at all. I love season 1. We both love season 1.
Hmm.
Season 2 wasn't as good, but I kind of learned to appreciate season 2. I actually went back and watched it again
Yeah.
in preparation for season 3, but also because I couldn't
Hmm.
really remember anything that happened.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I feel like season 2 was easier to understand than season 1 because season 1 was not chronological.
None. Yeah.
Yeah, but it lacked the artfulness of season 1. Season 3, where would I even start? How about from the beginning with Jennifer's
Yeah.
voiceover?
Oh God. That's not even the worst part about the season, but
But
sure.
I just right away I was like, why? Why are they doing this? And it wasn't just a voiceover, it was a voiceover montage. And you know how that's my most favorite thing in the world to see.
Yes. Yes. Um. Okay. So yeah, we can. Sorry. Before I go, is there anything else you wanted to like? Because you were starting it, going in on your critiques. Like, do you have anything else you want to say, like, at least on the beginning side of things?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that whole voiceover thing kind of explaining their situation was
Hmm.
it was just so off-putting. Like, just start the show. I don't need to, see this. And I feel
Yeah.
like it would have been great to, instead of being told how they were on the run, because that's
Just
where,
seeing it.
yeah, like just show. I mean, I thought it was good when with the whole thing with the barn, and
Mm-hmm.
and I think only Geralt was there, and then after that, Yennefer showed up, but we never see Ciri in that scene.
Mm.
It was like I thought she might have been invisible because like the door made a sound or something like that, um, but that no, that didn't happen. So I was
No.
like, okay, so what are they doing exactly? But I felt like it would have been. I don't know. They could have just done that so much better than having a montage and Yennefer just explaining, "Dear friend,
Dear friend.
signed your friend."
Hmm. The whole time I'm just thinking, well, you lucky Geralt Lane, you stay here at all because you literally gave up Ciri so that you could get your magic back in season two. So, and like that literally led to the deaths of a bunch of Witchers later on, as well because you did these actions. So, yeah, I don't think I'd be forgiving you anytime soon. Like those people still died. Those were like Witcher, and they can't even make many Witchers nowadays. So like, and those are all of Geralt's brothers. Like, nah,
Yeah,
you, no,
yeah,
we ain't even like. I get it, you're the main character, but that's some heinous stuff you just did. So, but she does get forgiven. Spoiler alert, and they come together and it's fine and they love each other. And there's obviously, for those of you who've seen the other seasons, there's this whole question of if they love each other because they actually love each other or if it's because of a spell that that Geralt like kind of like made or wished or something like that back in season one. Um, but before I get into like the main stuff that bothered me with the season, because there's actually some stuff that I like too. I think that it's interesting to look at some of the stories around season three and how it was like kind of developed. Like there's so many things that have come out since the season has ended, and so many things that were coming out while the season was coming was being shown. And one of the major things is that you mentioned earlier, Geralt is being played by Henry Cavill, and he was a big fan. He did a lot to get that role, and then he was leaving because of creative differences and the fact that he felt like they were going away from the books. Well, the other thing that happened was that recently, might have been like last week or so, I think one of the showrunners was literally saying that the reason they went away from the books was because of the fact that in so many words, he didn't say this, I am paraphrasing. He said basically that the audience is too dumb to be able to follow long or complicated storylines with intricate like what's wrong or right questioning. So because of that, they had to try to make something that was simple and that would have more action in the different things because this is the TikTok generation, and so no one's going to pay attention to something that has a more intricate storyline. So that is what a show like I think it's either the showrunner or someone that has worked closely on the show said about the show. And right off the bat, you can already be like, okay, I can already see why Henry was feeling the way that he did. Because
Yeah.
there's so much wrong with that statement.
I'm also like, did you not work on season one? Because it sounds like you're describing season one, which basically everyone loved and
Right.
hated about season two.
Also, it sounds like you haven't seen shows like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones or any of these like really like high-end shows that lean into nuanced storytelling because that's the whole thing. Like that's the whole thing in The Witcher is just that what is actually evil, what is actually good, and it wants to get you to question it based off what I've heard about other people that have played the games and read the books. Like it's never so cut and dry of who's in the right and who's in the wrong. There's not always just a villain, right? So that was one thing. And the other thing was that apparently there were so many people that heard obviously that Henry was leaving that they thought that in season 3 he had already left. So there were people that weren't watching Netflix season 3 of The Witcher because they thought Henry wasn't in it. So there's literal ads that are like in Europe and the UK and everywhere where Netflix posted up that literally says don't worry, he's still in season 3 because they were that desperate to try to make sure people would still at least watch the season. But then I'm like, well, that means that you guys kind of know that your show is going to go off a cliff after he leaves. Then, if you're having to try to say, "Hey, stay," just because he's still there, when we all know he's not going to be there in the following season,
And
so
they
that's also
already
crazy.
and they're making a season 4 knowingly without him, even though
Mm-hmm.
they know that season 3 might lose viewers because he's not in it. I don't understand the
Yeah,
reasoning behind, like, why would they make a season 4
because
if
they think that they know better. They think that they know better. And then the last thing that I thought was crazy is that the rest of the cast did not find out that Henry was leaving until the same morning that he announced it on social media. So a lot of the cast members were upset, and apparently some were even crying because they filmed everything business as usual, and then they finished. They had their wrap, and then they went home, and then they find out that they didn't even get a chance to like have a goodbye party for him or to celebrate him on set with everybody. Which, for those of you who have not been on set, that is a big deal. When someone is ending the show or leaving and everything, it's nice to do like a big thing to like celebrate them and to celebrate together, have a couple of drinks on the set when everyone wraps. They didn't do any of that because they just thought business as usual. We're gonna see him again, and then they find out, oh wait, that was the last time we're gonna get to work with him together. And then so a lot of the cast was also just devastated. So I just had to bring up that those kind of like side things about the show that's surrounding this season because it's kind of just crazy that like, and that has nothing to do with like the actual content of the show itself, because we're gonna get into that more now. But I just think it's so wild how this kind of just transpired, where it just slowly went downhill, and then Henry just had to leave. And when you watch season three, you can understand why he felt like he had to leave, and why they also didn't like working with him because they felt like he was too into the books, and he was trying to keep things too like, I guess, close. So like they just didn't get along. But yeah.
I mean, why fix what ain't broken? Like, there's nothing that needs to change. So I don't know. And Play Matt makes a good point. Everyone loved the simplified ending of Game of Thrones.
Right. Exactly. Like where do you get in your ideas like that people just want some dumbed down, watered down, simplified content? um but
It just makes
anyway.
me so angry that like all these things that they like, people they start out so well, and then it all just like
Hmm.
becomes trash, or it doesn't even, like, the idea behind something is good, but like execution is always such a failure. Like, it just happens so often, and like people can't figure out what went wrong.
Yeah. I know,
Why?
right? It's staring you in your face, right?
Maybe it's
um
simplified for them.
yeah. They have their algorithm that tells them how to make a show. They're already trying to hire AI to do the writer's job. So I'll read this real quick. Henry Cavill hot take. We all know how unyielding, voracious nerds can be, and Henry Cavill makes it a point to nudge his way into the writer's room. Do we know that he isn't like a big expletive problem for writers, producers, directors, and that is why he leaves these projects? Regardless of right or wrong in decision making, workplace politics are important. Is he the problem?
No. I'm gonna come out and just say no, because I mean, I don't think, like, even if I didn't know that, because I wouldn't have known if, people didn't tell me that he was fighting for something and that he was leaving things because he didn't think they were good. I just already didn't think they were
Hmm.
good. And then he just so happens to also agree and not want to be part of the project anymore.
I mean, for me, it's just a matter of like, and we only know what we can read or we hear about. But for me, it's the integrity of if he loves these things to the point where he doesn't want to compromise for the fans. That means something to me. I mean, I wish that we had something like that for Star Wars. I would
Mm-hmm.
love it if we had directors that weren't willing to compromise George Lucas's vision because they wanted the fans to be happy. But so much of it, storytelling now is, we're not trying to do this for the fans. We're trying to do this for our
Money.
own political reasons or money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, but then you're not, the only reason you're where you are today is because of the fans that are here because of this property that someone else went through the hard work to create, which is now the reason that you have a job. So, but you weren't there in the beginning when that person had to figure out how to sell that property, how to get it published, how to make it so that it was popular, how to get it to the point where it even would even be thought about to have a video game and then thought about to have a show. You didn't have to do all that legwork. But now here you are being able to like get on the backs of the people that came before you and saying, I can do it better, even though I'm playing in someone else's world.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even
So,
just that. It's kind of like, I think the underlying thing is usually someone trying to make art versus trying to make money. And a lot of the
mhm,
time, like, you can tell, and we'll talk about this later when we discuss Guardians of the Galaxy. Um,
mhm.
but it's like movies that are made for money are usually bad, and they're
You can
disappointing.
also feel it. You could feel that it was made for money. You can
Yes,
feel it.
100%. And sometimes they do make a good one, but it's only good for the quality level of a movie that was made for money.
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
and I would say that about like all the big franchises that are out there right now. They're only fun to watch because they're like, you know, all that we really get to see on like a high production level. But then
Hmm.
you have these other things like Witcher season 1 where it's so artful and so compelling and so interesting to watch. And we're lucky to get to see it on such a high level, same as Game of Thrones. And then it just kind of gets turned
Hmm.
upside down as soon as people start to realize like, oh, we can really make money off of this. like
Yeah, that's
then
true.
someone takes over and they revamp it into something that we hate, and it loses that
Hmm.
art, that passion.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what was happening with The Witcher. And in season three, there's some definite strange choices that are made. I think
Yes.
I appreciated. I liked how it began more so than where it ended up. Like, there's this really cool fight where Geralt has when he's traveling with Ciri and Yennefer, and they get attacked. I forget the person's name that was attacking them, but it was like the elf woman, and her band of like associates that are
Francesca.
trying to Francesca, yeah, and they're trying to get Siri, and there's this really cool choreography. Like they can have really cool choreography with the sword fights, and Geralt's really good at, or excuse me, Henry Cavill's really good at selling these fights. So like in season one when he fights Renfrey, I think that was her name, in what was it, Blaviken? Forget the name of the place, but I think it was Blaviken. And then he like fights all these guys, and he fights Renfrey. Like it's really solid sword fighting. You don't get to see that too much after that. And then it's the same kind of here. He has this really cool like sword fight, and then we don't really see much more of that like later on in the season, even though that's kind of like the coolest that you can get to see him being. I think there might be like one or two others, but that was like, so I thought when I saw that I was like, okay, at least for the action is pretty cool. Let's see where this story is going to go. And the story for this season is essentially that there is an undercover traitorous mage that is working in the brotherhood, and that traitorous mage has been stealing girls from from Aratuza and has been experimenting on them and getting some of them to think that they are Siri for whatever reason, and but at the same time they are still actively hunting and seeking Siri. But at the same time, you have Francesca who's trying to get to Siri. You have the king who's also trying to get to Siri because that's his daughter. So you have all these people and all these different entities, and they're all basically trying to get to Siri, and that's essentially what the through line is for the season.
Yes, and there's so many things I want to say, but yeah, I mean, it just kind of turned into Game of Thrones, like the part of Game of Thrones that you don't like, because because it stopped being like a clever like manipulation of people and strategic actions, and it's more of like abrupt actions that kind of just happen, and people just do things without thinking about it first, and um a lot of it also didn't make sense motivation wise, and it's funny you said that, that you liked that action scene with the elves, because
Hmm.
one, that didn't make sense to me, and two, after that there's no more action until the end. So I was like,
Basically.
why is this so? I thought season 3 was quite boring because I was like, everyone's just talking. It feels like Game of Thrones where people just, but like less compelling because everything they're saying is just like, why? And but the reason why I thought it didn't make sense for that fighting scene to have happened, actually, I thought it would have happened differently because
Hmm.
like Francesca doesn't want to like capture Siri. She wants Siri to help them. Like they
Right. So she would need to talk to Siri.
yeah, not capture her and take her prisoner. She's not gonna do anything for you if you just take her prisoner. So I thought that she was
Hmm.
gonna end up being an ally for them, which I thought would have been way cooler if they were gonna take whatever route this is in deviation from the books. But I
Hmm.
thought the elves were gonna end up helping, or maybe like
Right.
if not be allied, then maybe it'd be some kind of thing where Siri thinks that they're trying to attack her. Like they all think that the elves are against them, but they're
Right.
actually being misunderstood. Like, don't you think that's like way more interesting than Francesca being like, "Oh, Siri is our savior. Let's fight her friends and kill them and just capture her." Like, what?
Yeah. No, you're right, especially considering that we already have other groups that are trying to do that exact thing of
Mm-hmm.
and they don't care if Siri likes them or not, but Francesca needs Siri to trust her. And that's not going to go over too well if you just killed like essentially her parents in front of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that didn't make sense to me. And I thought that what?
Sorry, I just remembered the whole thing with Siri and Yennefer when they were in the town and how like Yennefer and Siri got into a fight and then Siri ran off and then when she was running off, that's when she got chased by the Wild Hunt and I was like, why is Siri running off? But then also, why if she's running off, why isn't like Yennefer like chasing after her? I guess they
Mm-hmm.
just know. I guess that she just knows that they're okay. Like there's some points in this show where stuff just happens and you're kind of
Yeah.
just like, wait, did I
What?
miss something? Like you swear that there's a whole section that just got cut
Yes.
because like that, and that was
Yes.
one of them because I was just like one, how did Geralt know where to find Ciri? Ciri was supposed to be with Yennefer being watched over by her, but she just runs away and Yennefer doesn't. We don't see anything about Yennefer chasing after her. We don't even see Yennefer worrying about her in the next episode. The next episode is just like Yennefer already knows that Ciri's with Geralt, and it's like, wait, huh? That's kind of a big deal that she ran away from you because you're
Yeah.
supposed to be protecting her and she could have gotten hurt. I
And
just
she was
completely forgot about
alone.
that.
Yeah, no, that was one of my biggest complaints. Is that like yeah? So first of all, they get into a fight. Siri just runs away. Yennefer somehow knows that she left and doesn't care. Then Yennefer also somehow knows that Geralt is with Ciri. There's
Right.
never any scenes that explain how Yennefer knows that Geralt is with Ciri.
And they don't have cell phones.
Yeah, they don't
So,
have cell phones. And there's a lot of like there's some of that like later on too where
yeah.
where like Yennefer just says, "Oh, like so and so is gonna do XYZ," and something like that. Um, but yeah, so Ciri's riding on a horse, and then the whole wild hunt thing happens. Geralt somehow saves her, and then apparently she traveled so far on a horse by herself that they need to take a boat back to Aretusa. And I'm like, wow, why did they need to cross the sea to get back to Aretusa when she was
Oh,
on a horse before?
right. Well, she didn't run away from. I don't think they were in Aretusa when she ran away. That was just the majors meeting someplace on land. So yeah, she didn't run away from Aretusa back then. That was just some place where the witches had convened, but it was not Aretusa there.
Oh, so she ran away, and then Yennefer didn't care and was like, all right, I'll just go to Aretusa then.
Yeah, basically. So it still is bad. So yes. So that was absolutely terrible. And the other thing is that so I'm guessing you kind of watched this recently, right? You kind of just watched it straight like this week or something.
Last week, yeah.
Okay, so I was watching it before they went on the break because they did the whole thing that Stranger Things did, where they had like a brief like hiatus and then came back like a month later to show like the last like couple of episodes. Which in Stranger Things, and it was the same thing as with Stranger Things because I think in Stranger Things they had 2 episodes, but one of those episodes was basically a movie. With The Witcher, I think they came back and they had 3 episodes, and it just felt weird because the episode that they did the to be continued on was the episode in Aratusa where they have the dance, the ball, and where Vilgefortz, not Vilgefortz, forget the other. They frame the one guy. The other guy gets framed, and then they find out it's Vilgefortz.
His name's like Stroganov or something.
Oh, Stregobor, Stregobor,
Stregobor.
Stregobor, where they frame Stregobor, and so like I hated that episode because so there are some times when The Witcher thinks that it's more artistic than it actually is. The Ciri episode's another one where they do this because like Ciri gets basically a whole episode to herself where she's running around the desert.
Oh god, I hated that episode. It was the worst episode ever.
Yes, and I was like, guys, you are stretching this way too long. I get what you're trying to do. It does not need to be 35 minutes of Ciri in the desert alone by herself having hallucinations and talking to her, talking to a witch and throwing up. I get it. We're trying to build some character for her, but even the way that whole ended was just weird. But the episode with the at Aretuza with the ball and the dancing and everything, it is one of the most pretentious attempts of a writer or a group of writers that I've ever seen on a television show, because they want to do this whole thing where like almost kind of like what they did in season 1, where they kind of start with the end and then they kind of show you what happened at the dance. But the thing is that none of the information that we learned during the dance is so interesting that it warranted it being told out of order. There's nothing in there that's kind of like, oh my god, that recontextualized this other scene that we saw, which makes it so that this makes more sense, and now all of a sudden I'm having a eureka, oh my god moment. It is like, it is just being done just to do it. The stuff that we learn out of order isn't so interesting. It's kind of just, okay, we got more information, but it's not like anything special that is related to anything else that we've seen before for the most part. And it is like, when I remember watching it and just being like, why are they doing this? Like, I don't understand why the episode is being structured in this way, because the last episode ended with them about to go into the ball, and the next episode began with them coming back and being like, man, that was a fun night at the ball, wasn't it? And I was like, what is going on? And then of course then you see like the structure of the episode. But yeah, anyway, like that was just, yeah. And you know, the funny thing about that was that was the last episode before they went on hiatus.
Oh
and
no.
And I was like, you guys thought that this episode was good enough to end and to be like, all right, we'll see you in a month? Like, really? And it might have been like 2 or 3 weeks. It might be over exaggerating, but I think it was a month. But still, it was kind of just like, why do you guys think this is the episode that you guys can leave us with? It's not a good last episode at all. So it also it gave us that feeling that you guys only split the season just to try to eke out as much of like popularity as you possibly can out of like Henry Cavill's goodwill until fans of Henry Cavill, until like you can't like use him anymore.
Yeah. No, I thought that was stupid too, because I was like, wait, so we don't even get to see what happened at the party? And I also thought it was stupid that he went to the party in the first place, that both of them went to the party. I feel like it would have made sense if, like, Yennefer went to the party. But you have a room full of people who are after Ciri.
Mm-hmm.
And the two people who are supposed to be with her and protecting her are at the party. So it just makes me go, okay, so Ciri's basically up for grabs right now, and everyone knows that she's unprotected, so she's in a lot of danger, and they just kind of write it away by having Yennefer say, oh, I put a spell.
Yeah.
As if, like, a spell can't be broken. Like, she's not the most powerful sorceress or witch, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And they left her with Hoskier.
Yeah, who went and got laid.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I like Hoskier, but I think Ciri doesn't need him to babysit her. Like, she could handle herself more than Hoskier.
Yeah, what's he gonna do? She knows how to fight. Yeah, exactly. He's the liability. But it didn't even work that well, because then when he got back, because the guy who was using him to get to Ciri did what he was planning on doing, he gets there and Ciri's gone anyway. So he didn't even do his job. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, Okay, dude. Like, yeah, sure, Siri's safe until she's not. So you didn't actually do the one thing that you were tasked with doing.
Yeah, that's so dumb. But yeah, that stupid episode. Like, I agree with everything you said about that ball episode, and I was like, this is like Game of Thrones, like all this like seasons in one episode, crossed with Bridgerton, and I was like, there's nothing happening. They're just, and like you said, like none of the information in these conversations are interesting enough to be told out of order. And I was trying to imagine what it would be like if it was chronological, and I was like, boring. Yes, so the only way they can make it interesting slightly is to tell it out of order. And the whole time I was like, why did they do this with the whole season? They should have done this, but for the whole season.
I don't even know if it's like the whole point of telling something out of order is so that by the end it makes sense in a certain kind of way. But like, I mean, that's like what Christopher Nolan does. He's the person that tells all of his stories out of order, basically. Um, but yeah, like if there's no reason, I don't think you can do it just arbitrarily just because it gets people asking questions. If there's not a payoff, people are just going to get to the end and say what we said about the ball episode, which was it didn't need to be out of order. So if you're going to make it out of order, it's got to have some type of plan behind it. And so, yeah, this I think that this was just really poor. And then I think the next episode, where is the fall of Aratusa, I did legitimately like. Like I thought that would have been a good episode to have a cliffhanger on because at the end of that episode, the Aratusa is destroyed, Ciri is missing, Geralt is dying, like all these mages have died. It was like that was a good episode to me. That was fun. That was invigorating. It was, Vilgefortz made for an interesting villain because he is charismatic, but he was also strong and able to fight Geralt like toe to toe. Like I think that episode in itself was fun and interesting, but then it followed up with the Siri episode of her being lost in a desert for 35 minutes, and I was just like, guys, this is not as interesting as you think it is.
Yeah, it gets up to they bring you up to like this high of like, okay, we're gonna get somewhere. It's gonna be like more like we're done with the boring parts, and from here on out, it's all gonna be excitement. And then we get the desert episode, and it just brings you back down, and then you're like, and then after that, I think it's just more of that. Nothing's happening. Like that's literally the only
Mm,
episode that has action in it. I guess
mm.
with that whole fight with the
Francesca.
fire guy and
Oh, the fire
Francesca.
guy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I know you forgot about that guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Because he mattered so much in the season leading up to it, and then at the very beginning of season 3, they're like, "Let's get rid of this guy," and so they get rid of him, and then now what?
Yeah, he was very inconsequential. And so in the end, the very last episode, I was thinking, okay, this is the last episode. I mean, it also shows you that they didn't even know that they weren't going to have like Henry Cavill, at least leading up to this, because you think this is the last episode, it's going to go out with a blast. That episode goes out with a whimper. It kind of drags itself over the finish line. It's not much happening. There's not much intrigue happening. Like you spend most of the time wondering where Siri is, and I even like I had seen the episode before, and I couldn't even remember what happened to Siri at the end of the previous episode. And I'm just like, it's the show doing what it usually does, where it's just like stuff just happens off screen, and then it's just like, yeah, this is just how it is now. And they're saying Vilgefortz is coming with Siri, which you find out later that he doesn't actually have Siri. He has like the girl that's pretending to be Siri, but there's just all this stuff that is just happening in this episode where, I mean, there's some nice little emotional beats, but then there's stuff that doesn't make sense. I don't understand why. Oh, now I forget this woman's name, but Yennefer's mom, or the leader of all the mages. I mean, I guess we'll find out later why she kills herself. But
Tisea.
Tisea, like, I don't know why Tisea like kills herself, especially after having that really like strong conversation with with Yennefer, and then you have like Geralt like trying to heal, and they bring in this new elf woman who's like becoming a part of the party, that we've never met her before, and it's the last episode, and it kind of feels weird, and or maybe we've met her and I don't remember her, but the point is that she does not seem like a character that we've been following at all, and all of a sudden she's important in the last episode with Geralt and Jaskier, and then at the end everyone's just kind of going someplace, and that's the end of season 3, and you're kind of like, even if Henry Cavill wasn't leaving, this does not feel like a good season ender. It doesn't feel like exciting. It doesn't get me wanting to, like, there's nothing that happens that makes me want to like watch the next season to like see what happens. It kind of just feels like it limps across the finish line. And I just, yeah, it just kind of like, I wasn't really upset. I was just kind of like, wow, that's it. That was my feeling at the end of it.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. I literally said when it ended, like, that's how it ends. I thought there were 10 episodes. So when
I
it
thought there
ended,
were too.
when it ended, I was like, that's how it ends? Like, this is supposed to make me want to come back for the next season? Like, okay. Like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't even have, like, a lot of questions right now. Actually, I don't really have any questions right now except for why they made a fake series. But I guess we'll find out. But it also sounds like a dumb idea because I don't think that benefits anyone except for series. So,
Yeah, right.
um,
Exactly. We
yeah,
we will see. I
yeah.
read an article that with the writer strike, it's not even sure if The Witcher will come back at all because the production on The Witcher season 4 has like halted indefinitely right now because of the writer strike. So who knows if we'll actually get The Witcher season 4? This could actually be the end of The Witcher that we just saw, and if that is, it's just that's just like, wow, you started off good and this is where you end up. And one other thing that popped in my head that one of the writers was talking about, or one of the showrunners was talking about, where he was saying that all of the shows are just like, emotional beats, they're emotional conversations with people, and that's what's most important. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not true without context. The only time that emotional scenes matter is if we have a history that's led up to that emotional moment. But if you just have people talking and crying at each other, I have no reason to care. I really don't. And when I think about the season and like when I see certain scenes, I'm like, "Oh, that what I'm looking at is that opinion in practice right now. I
Yeah.
see it."
It's funny you say that because one of the things I was about to bring up is how there's a lot of these scenes between Yennefer and Geralt that I just kind of felt didn't move me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, which I thought really should have moved me, was when, um, it was kind of like they were kind of going saying goodbye, where Yennefer's like, I couldn't find Siri, I'm sorry, but now I have to go do this other thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
she's like, promise me this isn't the last time I'm gonna see you. And I was like, of course it's not gonna be the last time. Like, you guys are always gonna come back together again. It's like kind of part of the whole thing about The Witcher is that Yennefer, Geralt, and Ciri always cross paths. And like, I even know that from not having played the games, but that just kind of has been established already in the first two seasons that they always are gonna wind up together, and they're the
Mm-hmm.
main characters. So, like, there's no stakes behind those words
That's true.
that would
Yeah.
make me feel like,
They might not see each other again.
exactly. Like, I'm just like, the next season that starts, you guys are, except for Henry Cavill's not going to be Geralt. So in a sense, that might
Which
be the last time. That is the
it was the
last
last
scene.
time. It's the last
So
time. You know what's funny though? Because that same scene in Game of Thrones, you would feel that because characters spend so much time away from each other. So when a character spends so much time away from another character, and then when they see each other and they say, "Hey, I hope we see each other again," you
mhm.
you do feel the weight there because you're like, They might not.
Yeah.
They're both going in different
And
directions.
the fact
They might
they
not see
said
each other
that,
for 4 years.
and the fact that
Yeah,
they're saying that is like a big ass foreshadow, like, oh, they're gonna die. And also because
exactly.
anyone can die on Game of Thrones, but this show, no. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know why we had that scene in the show. It
Hmm.
maybe if it was a letter, like
Hmm.
one of her voiceover letters, like,
Dear
dear
friends.
friend, I hope I see, I hope I get to see you again. Because of no, even that, no.
No, it's just there's no stakes behind it. You're right. Like I understand why it's there because the characters don't know if they'll see each other again, but for us as an audience, there's no weight behind it. It doesn't make we don't wonder if they'll see each other again, like you said. And that's one of the things that this season is missing. It's just missing in a kind of an emotional resonance, an emotional connection. But I will say this though, like after watching these 3 seasons, it's gotten me to want to go back and play the games. So I'm probably next year going to sit down and play The Witcher 3, which I know is considered to be the defining experience of The Witcher. So
It's also
I'm
about
at
the
least going to
wild
do that.
hunt.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like, you know what? And Siri's in there as well. So, yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
planet that wants
We gotta
us to
move
stop
on.
talking.
We gotta move. No, I see the time, but yeah, the point is that this was so bad that it made me want to play the game so that I could see the way that The Witcher should be experienced. I feel for Henry Cavill. Like I know that he really enjoyed the character and really wanted to portray him, but we'll guys, we'll just have to see where it goes from here. But yeah, this season wasn't that good.
I sure wasn't.
So, but we are at 41 minutes. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we cut out of here?
Nope, got it all off my chest.
Okay. Well, that's what we thought about The Witcher season 3. Have you guys seen it? What did you think about it? Do you think that it was a good send off for Henry Cavill? Do you think that it wasn't? Are you going to still watch season 4 even though Henry Cavill is not going to be in it? Are you a Witcher fan? So it doesn't really matter who plays Geralt as long as you get to see the story portrayed on screen. What everybody thought about this and more, comment below. Let us know. And right out there, give you like, oh God, my voice is going away. Anyway, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and I am done.